Doo-doo. Hey there, everyone. My name is Zach Umperovitch from Zach's Contraptions, and we're here live again to go over anything and everything Rube Goldberg related. The goal tonight is, again, to make sure that people are comfortable with their Rube Goldberg projects. If you're part of the Rube Goldberg Machine contest coming up, the Young Inventors program, or if you just have any questions related to Rube Goldberg projects, I'm happy to answer them, talk Rube, talk shop, help you brainstorm, anything and everything Rube Goldberg. With it, I know we have special guests here already. They're the Purdue Boilermaker team, the collegiate team from the Purdue University. And, I don't want to make them wait too long. So with it, I'm just going to jump in and have them join us on the stage. With that, welcome, guys. Longtime Boilermakers. This team has been a part of the contest since 1998. I was, in fact, a part of them many, many years ago. So thank you guys for being here. And one of you will have to turn the mic on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having us. We're always glad to come, not only, support the competition and figure out what's going on, but also, see if we have any other questions that get spawned from anything else that somebody asks.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it's still early while there's less people here, because I know you guys like to, you ask the more technical questions that a lot of other teams might not care about, but I know you guys come up with some creative things. Do you guys have any burning questions you want to ask right away?
As of right now, I think we are still in pretty much of a bit of a stalemate with some of the things we asked last time. We're still trying to work through, a lot of the different parts of not only our base, but the steps that we're working on. So I don't think off the top of my head that I can think of anything specific. But I'm going to keep thinking. And as we head through some of this, I think some of the biggest questions for me personally are going to be some of the logistics of competition stuff going forward with, the reintroduction of regionals, and then what nationals will look like. And I know you and I have talked directly on some things of what certain things will look like based on how many teams we get at both levels of the competition.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, very good point. And I want to shout out to Veronica. Thank you for joining us and looking to start a grade 3 to 5 team. But yeah, it is the burning question that a lot of teams are wondering about both the regionals and the nationals. And regionals, how it works is, again, there's a host for anybody, not just the Purdue team, but how it works is the hosts are just our satellite locations who are hosting the regional events. They act as our intermediates who, they run exactly what we've set up for them. And with it, people have until about mid to late December in order to sign up. So, it's unfortunate, but a lot of times teams might not find out where they're even competing until early January. I wish there was a better way to do it, just with school fundings. It's kind of more of the lower grades, so to speak, with this, but teachers and budgets and school programs, stuff like that, it does take them to the early months. Now, that being said, for the collegiate, for you guys specifically, there are 2 groups interested in hosting the regionals right now for collegiate in your area. So that's great news as is. But if a regional isn't possible for either the collegiate or a group, so wherever you might be, there still is the opportunity to compete in a regional. It's going to be the remote regional event whereby you submit your video online and it's still ran the same way as it would be in person. You just don't have to pick up your machine and go anywhere with it. And then myself and the others at RGI will determine out of those that have to go to that remote regional, who we will send on and kind of give that direct ticket to nationals. So, because we do have a team that's in, Utah. We have a team from Thailand. This is very interested in competing. And not only that, competing live. So anybody thinks that they've got a logistical nightmare, moving a Rube Goldberg machine from Thailand to Purdue University, which I can happily say is where the nationals will be held for any and all divisions. So, with it though, Veronica, do you have any questions? Look, as you're starting to looking to start a 3 to 5 grade team club, do you have any questions while we have it, or anybody else? While I kind of chat back and forth with the Boilermaker team. How is your machine going, guys? Do you have Do you have any parts set up as of yet?
So currently we're working on essentially getting through the phases of figuring out the where of a lot of these steps that we're currently working on. So we have not yet finalized positions for a lot of the steps that are currently being made and or are done. But actually, where you are seeing us from is you are currently sitting on our base. So you may not be able to see it, but that is that is currently where you are. You are in the midst of it all. So yeah, we're really working our way through of trying to continue cranking out our step progress and making sure we iron out all the details of our base, making sure that it's able to be taken apart and transported, especially with the new size requirements. So I'll say we're using our size. So
excellent. I was going to say, yeah, it's kind of a point out to everybody else that's watching is, for collegiate, they get 12 feet of space, a 12-foot cube. So 12 feet, 12 feet, 12 feet. And I'm looking behind you with that door, and having been personally to this space, I know that door is not 12 feet. So when you are building your Rube Goldbergs, you do need to be cognizant of how you're going to transport them, how you're going to get them from point A to point B. I know we have 2 of the apprentice divisions here, and that only needs to be a 6-foot cube. That's about the max size. It does by no means anybody, you do not need to build it that size. If you're a teacher and you're looking to have your young students build it, they do not need to go to 6 feet. That's just the max area. It very well could fit within a 3-foot area if that's going to be more feasible to, say, the younger students, again, the 3rd grade students, so on and so forth. But and welcome Kristen, who is also looking to start a team as well. So no, that's awesome. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what you guys come up with, because again, this year the space requirements are we're just giving so much freedom. And with it, for anybody that's looking to start a contest, if you guys have any questions, by the way, I'm going to ping me in that and I can bring you back on. But until then, I'll take you off the screen so that I can share other stuff. All right. Sounds good. See you guys. So with it, yeah. So with this year, there's so many more opportunities for teams to be able to do things, not only, with the space requirements, but with the fact that I'm allowing things to fly out of the boundaries. I don't have a problem with that. Kind of the more direct way, the messy way with this year is that toothpaste and toothbrush. We understand that that's going to be a little messy, and as long as your hosts are okay with it, for me at Nationals, I'm perfectly okay with it. Go nuts. Where the Nationals are going to be held is going to be in the Armory, and there's going to be plenty of space for everyone. So the more that I keep planning this event, the more I'm realizing that we do have that ability for objects to be flying and that little bit extra zaniness and craziness. So really looking forward to that. For the people that are just joining us, I'm going to pull a couple things onto the screen. So there is the Rube Goldberg Machine contest, which if again, you're looking to start the 3rd through 5th grade teams, again, that's exactly perfect for the apprentice division. And you only need 3 students. Only 3 students are required in order to be a part of the team, and to host a regionals or host any sort of competition, there only needs to be 3 teams. So really only 9 students need to participate in such. So really nice kind of entry level to it. And if you're not familiar with it, I certainly encourage you to go to the rubegoldberg.org and check out all the rule books, because they're completely brand new as of this year, rewritten by myself, whom I was a competitor of this contest for 8 years. I have been a part of this whole thing for quite a long time. And so I really wrote the rule book in collaboration with others to make sure that it was crystal clear to everyone. It's a uniform set of rules. And, most importantly, it's not confusing, especially when it comes to, say, the judging, and scoring, because that is something that was kind of a little bit of a pain for many years. And as you can see, it's literally just a 1 out of 10 scoring system, especially for the younger groups. So if we just pull up the elementary side, this is the elementary rule book right here, the apprentice division, I should say. But as you can see, it's a very basic 1-page judging form that will be given out, and then the teams will be scored on this. The teams get 2 runs, and yeah, everything is just very readily available on rubegoldberg.org to check out. Not only that, again, with these live Q&As, I'm able to reach people, kind of answer your questions if you have any. Of course, keep sending them out in the comments. But what I'm able to announce as well is that we finally have the videos that I talked about in the last live video. We have actual progress with these educational video series, which I am proud to start to present right now. So this is something where with your students, you're able to, we'll be able to start playing the sound, but you're going to have these videos readily available, 7 to 10 minute videos that walk you through the key components of a Rube Goldberg machine. That's the first one that's kind of starting to play right here, whereby literally just talking about the key elements. You know, let me just scoot forward of what exactly is a Rube Goldberg machine. And one of the main elements that I want to point out when I talk about what a Rube Goldberg machine is this image right here. This is very important to any division, anybody at all who is thinking about a Rube Goldberg machine. This is the official classification chart. This is the gold standard. And you'll see that Rube Goldberg machines are the only ones that tick these 4 boxes. It needs to solve an everyday simple task, which if you're a part of our contest, that is putting toothpaste on a toothbrush. It needs to be made with everyday objects. That's kind of a, you know, it needs to be a thing for all chain reactions, made with everyday objects. So stuff that you have laying around, a fan, you know, a yoga ball, things like that, smaller objects, baseballs, books, etc. Obviously, be a chain reaction needs to be one step triggers the next. And why there's one that isn't there, crazy contraption, is because a lot of people see famous Rube Goldberg machines or these famous contraptions in movies and such, and they automatically call them Rube Goldberg, and they're not. Pee-wee's Big Adventure, kind of the biggest one is if you've ever seen The Breakfast Machine, it's actually not a Rube Goldberg or chain reaction because one object doesn't trigger the next. In Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, another breakfast machine, and Flubber and Casper, all of those famous ones, one thing does not trigger the next in that. So that's why that classification is in there. And a chain reaction machine is one where there's nothing funny or humorous about it. Think of it as a Hot Wheels car travels down some tracks, hits some dominoes, and those dominoes call a marble to roll. And that's a chain reaction right there. There's nothing interesting or unique about it. Whereas a Rube Goldberg takes it to that next level and ticks all 4 of those boxes of being funny, usually one thing triggering the next, solving something simple, and made of everyday objects. So you have a couple questions. I will shut up for a quick second. Henry asks, I was wondering if we absolutely had to win a regional contest to move forward to nationals. Geographically, my team would be competing against the Boilermaker chain reaction team in regionals. So it all depends. Being that this is the very first year that the collegiate contest is being hosted again by Rube Inc., we do want to ensure that we have a full panel of teams at the nationals. So we are looking to invite 12 teams to nationals. And, you know, if we find that we have 15 teams set up from across the country, then we are going to have to work it. If Purdue does have, like, you know, U of I is looking to compete, as I see, UIUC is here. But, you know, if they need to compete against them, so on and so forth, it's kind of a work in progress. But for the most part, we might still have you compete at a regionals, but in the case of a lower amount of teams competing, you might still compete at regionals. And if you get second or even third place, you might still move on to the nationals and give you that opportunity this year. It all depends, but we are looking to fill about 12 spots for the national contest, Henry. For the Rube Goldberg Society, hello, by the way, RGS has a couple questions. Can the toothbrush go onto the toothpaste? Absolutely. I really want to encourage that for teachers, for anybody being a part of this, is I'm not going to be too stringent on this. There's not going to be a certain, doesn't have to be this exact toothbrush. It doesn't have to be this exact toothpaste. As I say in the rule book, if you want to use peanut butter, if you're a teacher and you're really worried about making a mess in the classroom, maybe your students are allergic to toothpaste and they need to use just water. As long as you tell it in a narrative, there's certainly all ways around it. But basically, the final goal is that some form of toothbrush and some form of toothpaste collide and come together. And as long as you're telling your narrative about it, then go nuts. If it's the age of the dinosaurs and A dinosaur is brushing its teeth with a palm leaf and some mud. Jurassic Park style theme. There you go. That perfectly works for me. Again, just make it clear when you're telling your story. Veronica, we're fortunate to have access to many building materials. What are the limitations as far as materials? As you're answering it now, but give me boundaries. Absolutely. So yes, for materials with a Rube Goldberg machine, the sky's the limit. Truly anything. I have these stools nearby, which act as these lovely wheel and axles. Let's kind of pull this back over here. So I have these stools, which I could roll on the side. Not only does it spin, I could have something spin around, but if I have it roll away, you can kind of sort of see, that's a wheel and axle of sorts. In terms of materials, the things that I say no to, 3D printing. There is a guy out there on TikTok and Instagram who's currently 3D printing a Rube Goldberg machine for his project. And I am just actively going, no, do not listen to him. He's completely wrong, because the spirit of Rube Goldberg is taking everyday objects and repurposing them, recycling them, doing things in creative and unique ways. So if you're, there's certain elements that, yes, you might, if you're collegiate, you might need to weld it, you might need to drill things together, wood, so on and so forth. But at the heart of a Rube Goldberg, everyday objects. The other big no-no is something that requires coding, so programmable logic controllers. And what I mean by that is, I showed in the kind of the previews, there was a machine that had a laser beam and it connected to a circuit and it typed the word eject. Something like that's okay. But a programmable logic controller is something where it'd be like a ball is rolling and it misses a target. This little device is going to say, if it doesn't hit its target in 10 seconds, then automatically trigger the next step. They're fail safes. And, we really want to try to avoid that, because that's cheating. It's just, there's no question to it of, it's just not fair. I, in fact, lost a competition due to one of these devices that was sneakily hidden into a machine and wasn't found for quite a couple of months. It lost this team a Guinness World Record, no less, by the way. So, fun fact, I won't say who, but so PLCs are the no-go. 3D printing, if you need to do like little parts, sure, there's no harm with that. But 3D printing the whole thing, otherwise, there really isn't a whole lot of boundaries. I've used everything from shipping containers. We have one where that chainsaw over there, which, let's see if I can move my little banner thingy right there. That chainsaw on the ground is going to be part of my next machine. So, not running. I'll point that out. But again, anything and everything can be a Rube Goldberg step or a part for it. Rube Goldberg says, how many times do you expect to show up for regionals as of now? So the apprentice division, right now we're looking at around 300 to 500 teams from across the nation in apprentice. We're really lucky in that regard, because there's a lot of students around the country that are starting like that. Division 1, a little bit of a taper off, probably around 200 around the country. High school is hit or miss. In terms of the number that we had last year, there's around 50 kind of core teams. We are looking to boost that up a bit. And collegiate is, I wish I knew. And that's the big problem, is because this is the first year that the collegiate contest is back for the Rube Goldberg, for the Rube Goldberg machine contest. It was being hosted as the chain reaction event for a number of years. And I believe Purdue can answer to it, but I believe there was 5 or 6 teams. If you guys throw that on the comments, how many there was last year. But, again, we're looking to have 12 teams show up to nationals as the overall goal, with the inevitable goal of there being 25 teams around the country. In its heyday, I wouldn't say around 2011, 2012, there was around 60 collegiate teams across the country doing this. So 4 teams in the collegiate. Thank you, Henry. So yeah, there was a good amount in years past, and we are reaching out to them and trying to get them to it. But the overall goal, 12 to the national contest. And regardless, we're still going to have you guys compete in the regionals, because if nothing else, one, it kind of forces you guys to build a machine and have it done by a certain amount of time. But it also serves as a practice run. It's going to be something where you can test it, you can run it for an audience, and you can see what goes wrong. That was one of the big elements for myself for those 8 years that I competed, that having that test run, we were able to look at things and kind of step back and go, wow, we need to change X, Y, and Z, and really make it a show-worthy machine. So we had just 4 teams for the last year. Thank you, guys. Yeah, and it's kind of going into that point of having to change from regionals to nationals. What I want everyone to focus on, whether you're new to the competition or if you're building it now, again, the U of I team, Purdue, and especially, and the younger ones, the rules say it pretty clearly all throughout, but regardless of the Rube Goldberg machine that you're building, don't focus on the amount of steps. Obviously, hit the minimum, but don't aim for 100, 200, 300. You're going to end up with something that's just a little too cluttered. And what we really want is something that you're able to see every single step flow really, really nicely. You want to see, you want to be able to see the machine happening from A to Z and understand it. And what I say is, if you're able to sit, 8 to 10 feet away from it and you can follow 90% of what's happening, you've built a really great machine. If you have a machine that's full of dominoes, the new people here, I do not like dominoes. But yeah, if you have a machine that's just primarily dominoes and stuff like that, they're going to be really tricky to see. And it's not fun for the audience to watch. It's why I put in this official chain reaction guide. Let's go back to it, where if your machine is actually more than 50% dominoes or 50% marbles, well, then you're considered a marble run or a domino topple, whichever one that might be. So really try to limit those certain objects in your project. Any other questions? Well, I go back and I'm going to keep sharing the one video really quickly. But again, so the nice thing for anybody participating in these contests are these now educational videos whereby literally walking you through each of the elements. So when I'm talking about the humor, when I'm talking about steps, when I'm talking about this, literally I set up dominoes just to show you of that. And look at that right there, big bold. Domino topples are not Rube Goldberg machines. I will attack dominoes to the cows come home. So, but yeah, moving forward. So everyday objects in this, so on and so forth. And really it's a great video series whereby I'm just showing with a lot of examples, so on and so forth. If I ask, is a marble run considered to be any ball running down some sort of ramp? Yes, it is. So let's take a look. If you think of the OK Go Rube Goldberg machine, now that was one that my production company made so long ago. But with it, so let me pull up that one. So stop sharing that screen and let's pull up top 10 contraptions. That's not a contraption at all. That's the next video. Weird. So let's pull up OK Go. One of the kind of secrets behind this machine that I wasn't huge on, so get this going. There's a lot of dominoes to start in this machine, and then it starts off with marbles and ball rolling. It is just a lot of things. One thing falling, a ball going down some tracks already here in the first, 30 seconds. This machine right here is definitely a Rube Goldberg as it continues on. But the early half of this was something I fought like hell against because of all these rolling ball elements that, it dejects away from it being a Rube Goldberg. So anything that's rolling, not just marbles, so to speak, but if you have a bowling ball going over and over and over again, if you have the same element happening over and over, try to avoid it. That's just kind of the way I can put it best. Again, we really want to emphasize using those everyday objects. We want to use things creatively. We want to, do stuff that's never been seen before. One machine that I have that's coming out I would say in a few days. Let's see if I can pull it up. This will be a little behind the scenes look. We're still working on the optimization of all of that, but So let's get this video. So stop sharing. And one day I will learn how to use live software a little better, I promise. But so let's take a look at this one. So here's a machine where, starting off, here is a spring thumb. There is a big old balloon that's going to inflate that then causes, once we get there, there's a better view. This one was just the, the by and far the prettiest one that we had. Big giant balloon. So here's the 6-foot balloon that's connected to a bounce house fan that inflates, causing an inclined plane. This is where I'm going to use this one in a lot of educational videos, but this is technically where a ball run kind of meets Rube Goldberg, where I have the golf balls being utilized by this bicycle wheel. All these balls need to come down, but they're traveling through a foosball table made out, or a foosball table made into a plinko board, tennis rackets that are creating a track into a traffic cone. Big old boot comes down, swings into this big gigantic tire. So kind of a marble run elements in it, but just showing you how to make it a Rube Goldberg style. And for anyone that has seen it, that's a paint cannon that fires paint in this one. But I did load toothpaste into it, and I fired toothpaste into my face. And that was how I chose to solve this year's task. So really fun and interesting thing there. I think I can pull that up while I wait. So again, keep asking questions. I love, I'm very happy to answer anything and everything that, I want people to be comfortable. Here it is. So you just saw that machine. Share this one. Toothpaste cannon. Full screen it. And this is genuine toothpaste in the cannon. Fired on me. And that counts as putting toothpaste on a toothbrush. Minty. So again, I don't expect that for the younger students. I certainly don't think that they're going to be building an air cannon that fires stuff to that effect. But as long as your team contains the mess, any one of you are able to do that from any different level. If you are doing the younger divisions, what I say is for the teachers, really just going to a dollar store is going to be one of the best ways to provide materials for your students. Food pantry items, if you think of soup cans, those are great elements that roll. Food boxes work as great structures, but using stuff that you have around your classroom is a great way to introduce this to your students. And that's part of the educational video series. So, and if you are a team here that has not yet registered, I know there's a couple people that are just starting up with it. But what I want to direct you towards is team registration. So this is just on our Rube Goldberg website. Just make sure that we have you registered. There's nothing, by the way, it's completely free. You don't have to pay for it. But you need to register as a team to be a part of the Rube Goldberg Machine Contest. Very simple. Just the standard email, who you are, where you live, and just telling us what division you're going to be at. And really, that just tells us that you're interested in being a part of the contest. And, we can place you into one of those regionals. Because like I mentioned, we do have quite a number of apprentice teams looking to compete this year. And we just want to make sure everybody gets placed in the correct location. So far, we have hosts in 11 states. So that's phenomenal already for this early in the year. So does anyone have any other questions? Yes. We have a couple questions. Would you like us to post them in chat or bring us back up? I can certainly bring you guys back up. There you go.
Can you hear us?
Yes, go for it.
Perfect. So we came up with a couple of questions based on some of the step ideas that we had that would definitely need some clarification.
Sure.
So first one's a little bit long. It's a little bit complicated. If we have one step that activates and triggers a line of steps, that then has to wait for one of the previous steps to continue on and finish, that was waiting set up, essentially like an AND logic gate where you need both sides of that thing to be yeses or ones to then continue on. Would all of these steps in that line count, or would that classify as one of your things where if it branches off and doesn't go anywhere, you essentially lose those count of steps?
As long as there's a linear path. So technically speaking, as the one-step weight, and let me kind of show you an example with the best thing is always with examples. The short answer is yes, that fully counts. That's perfectly acceptable. Let me pull up the Sonic contraption for those that, sorry, is it Sonic? Sonic. So in this one, let's share this screen, present, share, and Sonic. Okay. So in this contraption, this is one where you have these mushrooms go and it triggers this big rock and it knocks this cart. So now technically the cart is the actual new line of path. The cart comes out, Sonic pops, here's all these different elements. That goes down, dumps that, but that rock from earlier comes back into play. And without all that other stuff happening, there wouldn't be anything for the rock to do. So it's kind of let's stop sharing that. Basically, in that case, whatever the object that goes on hold, say it is on the rock, that object counts as step 57, then count your other ones in a line. And then when that rock, in this case, kind of continues on, that's the next step in the sequence. So
Gotcha.
that's perfectly acceptable. That's not that. If it's like branches, so OK Go is another good example where a ball rolls and it causes a bunch of ping pong balls to drop onto the ground and just is decoration. A dead end, you don't count those branches of a tree. It's just got to be that linear path, however it might be. So.
Yeah, that example for Sonic pretty much matches up the concept to what we're planning pretty identically there. So that's good and that makes sense. The other question we had actually had to do with the way that we start our machine. So if we want our first step to be pulling something physically out of the base, completely detached, does it need to return to the base in some way, shape, or form, like set back down to not be considered a penalty? Or can it just essentially be in someone's hand as the...
Go nuts. Years past, there would have been an issue with it. 2013, we literally had a big crank handle that it was a big giant bar that connected to the machine, and we had to crank it. And it just due to the size of how much we needed to crank, it needed to stick out 4 feet from the machine. That was kind of where we changed it of you can take something off. However you start it, as long as it's connected to your body or, your hands, you start it and then it comes with you afterwards. Again, if you can tell, I'm more free going with this sort of stuff. I don't care. I think it's more fun and more interesting. So that. Quinn asks, what kind of things are considered political statement? That's a good point. So anything to do with the elections, if it's anything to do with elections, with the wars, if you're talking about a country, if you're talking about a country in a negative light, which it's now 2013 and there's wars all over the place. Obviously common sense, if it's going to be considered offensive or if there's any sort of question as to what it is, Rube Goldberg Machines don't need to know your political, your voting preferences. They don't need to talk about anything as such. Kind of the line draws of where, what year was it? 2010, I believe it was the BP incident where there was an oil spill. And if you're going to poke fun at something like that, where a step had some oil spilling out of it, you might offend somebody, but I don't consider that too much of I don't consider that crossing the line, but, fairly common sense of don't go, vote X or Y for 2024. There are other things in the world to do it besides a Rube Goldberg contest. So, other questions from the Boilermakers? I know that was just the one.
Yeah, I think those two that we asked about the chain of steps and then that first step are the two ones that we came up with right now. So definitely let you know if there's anything else.
Totally. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Wait, I just.
Yes. All right.
Okay. Asking for some clarifications on essentially the concept of having the volunteer or the one person inside of or as a part of the machine. What does that entail? How quote, inside the machine do they have to be? What does the interaction need to look like? That kind of thing.
So for those that aren't familiar with it, haven't yet read the rule books, I encourage you to do that. But Rube Goldberg Machines, most cartoons, most everything of such, hopefully that these show up. But as you can sort of see by the fact that I hold just a ton of Rube Goldberg cartoons, what's on the side? There are people inside of Rube Goldberg's cartoons. Hopefully I didn't just make myself horribly blurry. I probably did. People are a part of Rube Goldberg Machines. Animals as well, but of course, safety reasons, we can't have animals. So what we have is considered a volunteer, or somebody who can be a part of your Rube Goldberg machine inside, as long as they're not interacting with it. Personally, I want them to be inside of your space. I would like them to be in the collegiate teams. I want them to be in your 12-foot area. Again, I'm not going to be too much of a stickler of, as long as your machine, whatever element it is, say zipping up a zipper, if a person is standing outside your 12-foot area and they kind of lean in a little bit to where like a thing comes in and zips them up, that's okay. Keep the machine elements inside. And if a person needs to interact with them, if your foot's outside the boundary, if you need to be comfortable, if your boundary is a 6-foot area and your person is 6'5", good luck to you in life. But you're more than welcome to be inside that machine. So again, not too technical. The real only element is, the machine interacts with you, not you interact with the machine. Again, in the case of the machine would be like connected to that jacket for the zipper. It comes up, hits, and then it hits a ball in front of you. If the person moving causes the ball, the judges will see it. The judges will be trained for that sort of thing and notice like, hey, human interaction. So you're welcome to do it. But, I'm giving you the freedom. Just be careful is the best way that I can put it of, have fun with it, but make sure whoever it is trustworthy, that they're not going to kick something, or if they sneeze, if it's something like that. Actually, sneeze is a one that I will bring up. Again, we're looking for that humor and ridiculousness. So what do you think with somebody, if pepper drops in front of someone's faces and they sneeze, should that count as a step, or does that count as a intervention? What does the Boilermaker team think?
That's an interesting one. I think in my mind, my initial reaction says the causation would imply the essentially presence of a step in the sense of it being purposeful and not, the accidental of, oh man, let me just touch this. I think at least, yeah, I guess if it's truly purposeful.
Exactly.
And I guess if it would actually cause a sneeze. Now,
right. I think I would in the case I would be lenient of like, if we see pepper and there's a sneeze, fake or real, just lump it together as a sneeze.
One other follow-up that I did have along with the volunteer step, and it kind of is with what we asked about earlier. If we have someone pulling something, say we wanted to bring up someone to pull out said thing as our first step, can we do that as well as having someone inside the machine for an actual like different step thing?
Yes. So the only rule that I have of the volunteer, other than machine interacts with you, is the volunteer cannot be the person to start the machine.
Yeah.
So whoever's inside of it, you are welcome to have anybody in the audience, anybody that you want start your machine. The judge, me, anybody can go up to your machine and start it. That is, again, a kind of a error of warning where, if they don't do it correctly, case in point, myself, because I will cite myself for screwing up a lot of things over the years. 2011, beautiful machine, one of our best. We broke a Guinness World Record with this thing. And somebody else always started the machine. And for whatever reason, it fell upon me in our very last run to start it. And it was this big lever on the side of the machine. And I pulled it too hard. And it triggered something else in the machine. And so it went from step number 1 to step 212, and step 212 started going. And then we only had, I think it was 35 steps. It was a perfect run. The whole thing works perfectly from step 1 through 212, and then 213 on to 244. Worked beautifully, but because 1 triggered 212, that's probably not 35 steps for anybody that's actually counting, but just shush, do your own math. Yeah, it just be careful. If you have somebody else triggering it, you can have a plant in the audience if it's a family member that's trained in doing it. Kind of a fun thing for teams is if you want, an adult, if you want to set up some sort of raffle, stuff to that effect where somebody triggers it, it's a fun way to get them involved. And if you have a people's choice, it kind of helps sells you a little bit, quite honestly. So, good question. Anybody else? Any other questions? Veronica, I don't know if Veronica and who was it? Kristen are here. But is there anything else I can help you guys with the apprentice divisions? I certainly want to, again, make myself available to anyone and everyone, not just you Boilermakers and U of I, but again, no, thank you guys for being here, and thank you for asking great questions, because the beautiful thing that I found is that, while there's not a ton of people that show up to these events, we had a huge turnout in terms of people watching it over the past month and emailing me questions. So they're going to watch this, and I'm going to get a ton of emails based off of this video later on. So, yay me. So, does anyone else have more questions? Or I can certainly talk more about, again, just the overall process with it. What do you think? Boilermakers, you good? Good for the moment?
I believe we are.
Right. Sounds good. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Again, ping me if you have a question again. So, wow, I definitely did make myself blurry. Hooray. That's what I get for showing these images. But no, yeah, of course, Kristen, no problem. So yeah, with it, again, I just want, I want people to really go back to the heart of Rube Goldberg Machines. And that's, again, why there is, let me pull it up, where there are these educational videos that I talked about in the past. So let's see, how to correctly count the number of steps. And that's going to be something that is, when we're talking about it, when we're talking about these different linear things, I made sure that, let's make sure it actually plays. Look, there's lovely me. So in the video, to really kind of, bring home what a step is, I literally break down the board game Mousetrap. This is going to be the most classic example of a Rube Goldberg that, any teacher is going to be able to get their hands on. Certainly, if you are teaching this, there's the one with the crank right there. Hey, great timing. Look at that. But if you're teaching this in a classroom, there's certainly videos that are worthwhile in showing. But having that hands-on approach, being able to bring in a physical demonstration for the students, especially 3 through 5, grades 3 through 5, Mousetrap is going to be one of the best examples possible, because they might have changed it for recent ones, but it's a really fun game. It's colorful, it's eye-catching, and again, I have these videos where I literally narrate through, exactly what each step is, why it counts as a step, and really making sure that you understand that the step is defined as a transfer of energy from one step to. It's the transfer of energy from one object to the next, not the transfer of motion. And kind of what I'm rambling about in this video is that the ball and the bucket are 2 separate objects. So the boot has to kick the bucket, which the bucket then tips, releasing the ball. Those are 2 separate steps. However, the ball continues rolling. If I let it roll, the ball is going to roll, and then it's going to continue on down the separate red track. It's still the ball itself that is the object moving along. It's not the track itself. So you don't count the tracks. And that's where those marble run elements of having, you can have all sorts of things going back and forth, but if it's the same ball, then it only counts as 1 step all throughout it. And the same goes for dominoes, which very funnily, when we were filming this video, let's go. So I think I wrote it out somewhere. Yeah. Do dominoes count as this? And I think I asked the question of it right here of, does every single one of these dominoes count as a step? Well, in the video, I set it up and it's a big old no, absolutely not. Each domino, that whole lineup is going to be one single step. And while we were filming this, I was setting up these dominoes. Look, the rule book even says, no domino topples, but I was setting it off. And then all of a sudden, an alarm went off in the building, and it was a sign that it was like dominoes are just horrible. So, really funny scene in the video, literally having to run out of the building as these alarms are flashing and stuff to that effect. It really just sells the point of don't use dominoes. Any other questions from anyone? Happy to answer. U of I, you guys said you had a bunch of questions. Again, would love to make sure everyone's good. Would love to not be blurry, but I've royally screwed that up for myself by showing that image. So, if you are one of the younger educators, by the way, I will point out that there is something that is available to you if you are interested, and that is a full curriculum, a Rube Goldberg curriculum. Helped develop this with the Young Inventors program, so this is a full-on educational guide. It's a 4-step lesson plan where there's Google Slides, there's actual plans. So let's see, share this tab instead. So it is a full-on lesson plan whereby you can walk your students through this process of how to build a Rube Goldberg. And more importantly, who was Rube Goldberg and why is it important? Because that's kind of a step that a lot of teachers I find miss is, obviously they want their students to do this, but what is the importance of it? What is, why do we even do it? And what I like to point out as well with the curriculum in this very first lesson is I include videos that I find the most useful to show to your students. In particular, OK Go is kind of a classic one. And yes, I was involved with it, but one that I like better for students to see, let's see, is this one, the Disney XD machine. Let's make sure it's the right one up there. Yes. And the reason I like it is being able to show just this 15-second machine whereby you can just start to identify that, hey, this is a really cool, interesting, phenomenal machine. Really colorful, really eye-catching. However, when we start breaking it down, here's something going up an inclined plane. Here's a lever. The balls are one of those branch steps. Balls don't do anything. So here we have lever, something rolls down a ramp, something rolls down a ramp, something rolls down a ramp. It's one of those things of where it looks really complicated to start, but in reality, it's a really fancy dressed up machine that's utilizing just the 6 simple machines all throughout. Go back to this. But again, the point of it was that in this lesson plan, it shows you exactly which videos are the correct ones to show to your students as references. And it even gives you the narrative of what to say to your students, what to identify to them. And even for the Purdue team, Purdue or the U of I, let's remove that. You can certainly show that to your incoming, when you do the recruitment of, you can show them machines that you've done in the past, but you can certainly utilize that as well as a way to, introduce them to these Rube Goldberg machines in kind of that quick and fun and interesting way. So with it, are there any more questions from anyone? I don't want to take up, we don't have to be here forever and a day. But again, I just, I want to be here for people. Again, we have the blurriest of me's. It's bothering me so much. I apologize. Again, we have all the rule books. We have everything available on rubegoldberg.org. There's cartoon examples there. All the rule books are there. Please sign up to be a team on there. If you're interested in hosting an event, if your school is looking to have multiple teams participate, we certainly recommend you signing up as a host location. Easier to travel, of course. But again, if you go on that site, rubegoldberg.org, or even on my YouTube, be sure to subscribe. I'll always just say that. I'm pretty sure everyone here already is. But again, just posting all of this informational, these informational guides out there and just making sure that, I'm doing everything that I can to make sure that this season goes really, really well. Boilermakers, I'm going to pull you on one more time just to see if you have any questions. If anybody else has any questions, leave them in the comments. But probably tune out here in just a couple minutes. So, do you guys have anything else while you got me?
No, I don't think we do. It's been a blast to see and hear more about the competition. Obviously, we're going to keep cranking through everything and keep working towards that spring date for both regionals and nationals. But we're all excited. It's a full steam ahead here. So
excellent. Yeah, just I'll make mention as well, if anybody's still listening, for U of I, for you guys, of course, we are going to let you guys move in the night before. So if you do make it onto the national contest, you will be able to set up the night before. It's not going to be a mad dash in the morning. You'll be able to get in at 6 o'clock. That's for any division. And you'll have that opportunity to set up your machine properly before actually getting to run it. So something I really wanted to guarantee, and thankfully we got it. So yay, you guys are still here. Do you guys have any questions? Anything else I can answer for you? We'll let them type it. But yeah, so Nationals is looking to be a really great event. Whoever is the winner of the Nationals, by the way, we are having you appear on a late night talk show, which, that'll be exciting, which you get to go along with me. So I will be there. I'll be able to coach you, guide you, etc. Make sure that, you look good on camera, what have you. But that's something in the works. So, just kind of the little extra motivation. U of I, glad to have you guys a part of the Rube contest this year. I'm glad to answer any more questions in email and shoot them my way. But until next month, where I anticipate more people, because I'm anticipating as we get closer to competition, you all are the early preppers, and good for you. Way to be on top of it. But I find that I get more and more emails as January kind of comes along. So with it, awesome. Thank you guys for coming out, and I hope I answered your questions. And again, good luck to everyone who's a part of the contest. So thank you guys, and I'm going to sign off now.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Of course. Take care, guys. Take care, U of I, and whomever is the other person here, because I see there's only 3 people left at this point. So awesome. All right, take care, everyone.